This is The Clash, where the real world clashes with a true Christian worldview. Join former professional wrestler Chris Whaley, known as the Masked Saint, who is an author, pastor, and teacher that brings his wrestling skills into the squared circle and tackles real-life issues. Along with Jeff Dixon, best-selling author, internationally known teacher, leader, and pastor who is not afraid to tackle the tough issues of the world we live in. Together they form a tag team of wisdom in The Clash.
Hi, welcome once again to The Clash, where we take the worldview of being a follower of Christ and allow it to clash into the culture around us. And along the way, we meet some great people, we have some great conversations, we talk about events and stuff like that. Hopefully, when we're done, that clash helps you see the world just a little bit better. I'm Jeff Dixon, and I get to kind of help facilitate and host, but the real star of this event is sitting next to me, unmasked, but the Masked Saint, Chris Whaley. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Jeff. Thank you so much. You're always just too kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
I think that about myself. I'm just too kind.
Yeah.
No. I'm glad we get to do this again.
Yeah.
And once again, you've got a friend of yours that you're going to introduce us to. I'm thrilled. Our folks are going to be thrilled to meet him and hear him. So why don't you go ahead and do that?
Yeah, we've had some great guys on our show, and I'm thankful for every one of them. But I'm really excited about today because we have probably the greatest wrestler to come out of Cuban heritage, and he's been numerous tag team champions all over the world. He's been a junior heavyweight champion. I was at Cauliflower Alley back in 2020, and he was recognized at Cauliflower Alley, which is, that's kind of a big deal. But he every time I see him, I think, this guy could get back into the ring right now. And I keep looking older and older, and he keeps getting younger.
Better?
Yeah. But we're very happy to have with us today Ricky Santana. Ricky, man, I can't tell you how thankful we are that you had time to come on our show, and we're just glad to have a conversation with you today.
Well, it's my pleasure to always come out and support causes that I truly believe in, and a lot of things that have gone through my career. I've had, some ups and downs and some curves and some slopes, but thank the good Lord, I'm still here. He's still got a mission for me, and I'm here to answer questions for you guys. And Chris, that hat.
Yeah, that hat.
I knew he was going to do that. How did I know that? He's going to mock my hat. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much. Hey, why don't you start us off and just tell us a little bit about your family and tell us about your journey of faith.
Oh, well, family's important to me. Been fortunate enough and blessed enough to have some great kids and some awesome grandkids. Moving along, I grew up very religious family. Both my parents, being Hispanic, Catholic faith, still go to Catholic, still go to Mass on Sundays. It's one of those things, but like everything in life, you get off on a different path and you try to do it on yourself and you let the flesh take over because you think you're doing it and you can get it done by yourself. And a lot of times I've been checked by the good Lord. He's put me in situations that I have to reach out for him, and I've gotten to the point in my life. There was a date that resonates with me, and that is October 28th, 2003, when I finally just said, Lord, I give up. I can't do this on my own. I can't even fathom my life being anything without your guidance, because the road I've been taking, I thought I was doing it all by myself, and got a quick reality check that the pages that he's turning are the pages that were meant for me, and the pages that I was looking at weren't making it for me. So yeah, I found something that I don't think I lost. I just kind of misplaced it. That's how I kind of look at it.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Jeff, you got a question?
Yeah, I mean, Ricky, for our audience, I mean, they will remember, they are familiar with your career. Many will. Now, some don't know, I guess. And what a piece of it that I'm not really familiar with, though, is how did you get into pro wrestling to begin with? How did that happen for you?
Well, I amatured for many years, but it all started back in high school. Florida Championship Wrestling was the big thing, and it was on every week, and the storylines are great. And I remember I was in the 11th grade, and we were in modern lit class, and we're talking about what happened on TV on Saturday because it's Monday, this, that, and the other, and a girl chimes in from behind, which was unusual for me, knowing that she liked wrestling, and I got to talking to her. And one thing led to another. She, introduced me to her dad, who happened to work in the Carolinas in the 50s. He was with the Department of Transportation. But Gail was the one that came up to me one night and said, "Hey, my dad's got tickets to the matches Friday, at the Fort Lauderdale Army. You want to go?" I said, "Sure." I'm thinking, okay, I get to see the show. I don't know where his tickets are at, but I get there and they're front row. I'm like, okay, I'm ringside. Here we go. But what I noticed was that some of the guys that were there would look over at him, like you want to acknowledge, but you don't want to acknowledge, but you don't want to let the fans know that you know these people, right? So when we were done, I only lived 3 blocks over from Gail and her family. And Mr. Eisler says to me, "You got a minute?" I said, "Sure, sir." He says, "You like wrestling, do you?" I said, "Yeah, pretty much. I mean, amateur wise, and I love pro wrestling, And he says, "Follow me." And we went in his house. I went up through the kitchen to the backyard, and there was a ring. And I looked at it, and he goes, "You let me know when you want to try this out. I don't have too many connections left because it was a long time ago, but I can help you out." And that led to obviously meeting the great Malenko. And from there, it just took off because I was so intrigued by not necessarily the matches and everything, but how people reacted to him, whether it was the good guy or whether it was the bad guy and the story that was being told, because I was always into film and entertaining. That was my niche as a kid. So my dad took me when I was a young boy to Madison Square Garden, and I was, just mesmerized by how people reacted. So it kind of was, I think, something that built up and built up and built up, and then, I met the great Malenko and moved forward, and then you get to meet the people that you saw on TV, the Briscoes, the Funks, the Anoa'is, the Guerreros, all these guys. For me, it was like, wow, I've come a long way, and I obviously picked their brain and developed my own style and skill.
That's pretty amazing.
Now, breaking in, I know you got a question out, but I want to throw one more here. But as you're breaking in, though, I mean, I can't even imagine that. I mean, because I would just be in awe. Did you? I mean, who did you? I mean, did you ever find yourself just in awe of someone so much you had a hard time working with them?
You know, you laugh. There was a journeyman for the Florida office named Steve Brody, and it was the first time that I had worked in front of a pretty large crowd. It was at the Sunrise Musical Theater, and I remember going in there, and he just inadvertently calls the international spot. One tackle, drop down, get it again. And I did the tackle, did the drop down, and then I froze completely, just blinked. Didn't know what to do, and he took me over in a headlock, and he goes, "You forgot, huh, kid?" And I said, "Yeah, Steve, I did, but I make you a promise right now. I'm never, ever going to forget a spot or a finish from this day moving forward." And I pride myself on that. But yeah, that moment was like, "Oh, what?"
Wow. That's one under fire, right?
Hey, Jeff, how many, you think about how many people that we've interviewed who have been, trained by the great Malenko, of which I was one of them. Matter of fact, I dedicated my first book. Part of the dedication was to the great Malenko, and I tell you, the guys that he trained, he did a great job. He did a great job on this guy too. But hey, I want to know about your time in Japan. I mean, to go to Japan, that's kind of like, wow, that's some pretty good icing on the cake. when you get to go to Japan. And you better have your stuff in in little balls. You better have them all in a row, because those Japanese wrestlers, they will take you to school. So, well,
They will test you.
What was it like going over to Japan and working?
I love the style. I love the culture. But most importantly, when I got the opportunity, thanks to Terry Funk, he's the one that booked me and sent me to Japan for the first time. And it was a 30-day out of 31 days in Japan. It was a real world tag team. And I got into the ring with legendary wrestlers. And if you're talking about being in awe, stepping in the ring and looking across, and there's the Giant Baba, and there's Andre the Giant.
Wow.
Stepping across the ring, there's Terry and Dory Funk. You got Dr. Death Steve Williams and Gordy. You got Stan Hansen and Spivey. You got the British Bulldogs. You had, Japanese-wise, you had Mizawa, you had Kawada, you had Kabashi, you had Jumbo Tsuruta. You could name and go on and on and on. And I got a picture on my Wall of Fame that shows my first tour and aerial shot. And I look back at it and I go, wow, I was in some high company. And I had that opportunity. And I took advantage of it, don't get me wrong, because I wanted to keep coming to Japan, because that was one of my goals starting out, to be able to wrestle all the different styles across the world. So,
yeah. Go ahead.
As you think back, we're going to take a break here in a minute, but as you think back over your career for a second, I mean, is there one particular match? I mean, if you were to put one and put it up on the shelf and say, this is the match, what match would that be? Who's it against? Why is it so important?
The one match, Louisville, 1987, 47 minutes, the Nature Boy Ric Flair put me on the national map. That, to me, from a wrestling standpoint and being in the ring and being able to follow, was unbelievable for me. It even impressed Rick.
Wow.
But there's always a story behind that with, and this, Chris, the guys in the locker room razzing you about this, that, and the other in conditioning. And it was Kevin Sullivan, and he's the one that razzed me when Flair walked in. He said, hey, Nate, the kid says you can't blow him up. He says he's going to run you ragged around that ring. And I just looked at him. I said, Kevin, that's not funny. And he said, come on. He said, don't be afraid. Now he's here. Say what you were saying 3 minutes ago, and they're egging it on. And I'm going, lighten up, right? And then, Rick looked at me and he goes, really, kid? Really? And I said, Nate, I'm going to listen. I'm going to follow, right? So, even after the match, he walked up and he still asked me, he goes, did you really say that? And I just looked and I said, Nate, all due respect, even if you would have blown me up, I would have never have let you know, because that would have been worse. Sure. Me coming back with my tongue hanging out down to the floor, they would have rode me for months. So I had to suck it up. Buttercup. I went for it.
That's awesome.
That's good.
Hey, we're going to take a break, Rick, and won't be long, and we'll be right back. Jeff, did you ever, in your wildest imagination, think that one day we would have this great TV show called The Clash, and you could actually buy T-shirts and stuff that had The Clash on? Did you ever think that possible?
Yeah, when I was 3 years old, I had a vision.
You did?
That was going to happen one day. No, I'm just kidding. I never thought about that. So.
Hey, it's just awesome, man. I mean, of course, the tagline, don't tap out.
Yeah.
On the hat.
Look at that.
Yeah. And then on the back of the hat, it's got The Clash. And I don't know, what you got?
Well, I've been sitting around thinking about, how could you think about The Clash 24 hours a day and at the same time hydrate?
Oh, wow.
Stuff right there. Look at there.
How awesome is that?
That's a mini tumbler right there.
Wow.
But you could get a coffee cup.
You know what? I need to get one of those to pour the coffee into it so it keeps it
You also could get a mug though. If you're a mug guy, you can get a mug.
Yeah.
You get a big taller tumbler that you can walk around. And so when you're walking around drinking stuff with our logo on it, people say, "What is the Clash?" And they can tell you all about the TV show.
So you need to look at that little QR code down at the bottom of your screen, and you just get your camera, your phone out, you put it on camera, and you look at that, and a little thing will come up, and you touch that, takes you right to the store. It's so easy, even I can do it.
There you go. Welcome back. We're talking to Ricky Santina, and we're kind of talking wrestling. We were even talking wrestling during the break. So, but coming out of that, Ricky, do you still watch wrestling today? I mean, do you follow the storylines and stuff? And again, what's your impression of the industry today?
Well, yes, I do watch it. The missus just looks at me and says, "Really? You don't get enough?" I watch Monday, I watch Tuesday, I watch Wednesday, I watch Thursday, I watch Friday. And occasionally she'll watch it with me, but I critique everything. I think the difference between my time in the business early on and my heyday to compare to what it is storylines drag out longer. In my time, I mean, the storyline was 3 months, 6 months. And the difference is the people want more of the, as I call it, the flip-flop and the fly. They want to see all the tables being broke. They want to see the chairs. They want to see all that. And we used it when it was necessary to draw more people to follow. So, yes, it's different. The big major differences, and God bless them, they're making a ton of money.
Yes, they are.
Making a ton, merchandise and movies and commercials and everything else. And you had to fend for yourself in my day. You had to make sure that what you did in the ring brought the people to bring the salary. You had to justify it. And now they're protected. They have all these medical staff on board. They have neurologists. They have financial advisors. They got everything. Us, you fix everything with white tape and keep going.
Yep.
And you work, 363 out of 365 a year. And if you took time off, you lost your spot. Different mentality, like any sport. I mean, everything has evolved: baseball, football, basketball, and same with wrestling. But I still watch it.
Yeah.
I still watch it, and I think in my head, well, could have done this, could have done that. Kind of like a rocking chair booker.
Yeah.
I did do it for the longest time. I did book in different territories and was an agent for WCW and an agent for WWE. So that's how I look at it. And I think that's what makes the missus mad, because I don't let her enjoy that part of it. I just critique it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Well, I guarantee you, he doesn't watch as much as Bob Cook watches. I guarantee you. Bob.
I don't know. I'm pretty close. I mean,
Really?
I'm pretty close. I watch Raw on Monday, NXT on Tuesday, AEW on Wednesday, TNA on Thursday, SmackDown on Friday, another AE show on Saturday. I watch all the PLEs.
Yeah.
I mean, and then I work with the local independents here in Florida, and help the younger talent. So yeah, I'm a constant. I just came back from Oregon for the Portland Wrestling Expo with Len Denton, the Grappler, me, Mike Miller, myself, C.W. Bergstrom. All those guys were out there, and
Yeah.
I still keep it going. It's like second nature to me. I did it for so long and still continue to do it. It's kind of hard to let it go. It's like, old habits die hard.
Well, you had quite a run with tag team championships, and I guess you and Fidel Sierra were an item for several years.
Yep,
So tell us a little bit about the tag team championships and all the great work that you did as a tag team.
Well, most people don't realize that I've had a lot of tag team experience in every territory that I've ever been in. I've held the tag team titles with different partners. Out in the Northwest, yes, I did have Fidel. He was under the different moniker with a mask. as the assassin. And then I turned around and had Brady Boone, God rest his soul. I had Coco Samoa, God rest his soul, Brad Anderson, Curtis Thompson, and those were all tag team runs. So I was kind of like the expert in that tag team run. In San Antonio, held those titles, came to Florida, and then obviously me and Fidel with the Cuban Connection, working those programs with the sheep herders, better known as the bushwhackers. In Puerto Rico, their world tag, their Caribbean tag. Went overseas into India and did the same thing with the international tag championships. In Germany for Otto Wanz, I was his tag champions with Black Baby Seal and Leroy, God rest his soul. So a lot of tag team work for me. So I do know a little bit about tag team, but most people always look at me as a singles wrestler because I did a lot of that also.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you were going to have, and time and years aren't an issue. You, in the height of your career, could have a dream match with any wrestler, past, present. Who would it be? Who would be the guy that you would love to work with most?
Tough question because I worked with the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
I would probably have to say it's between two guys because those are the guys that I truly idolized watching wrestling as a young kid. One would be Jack Briscoe, and the other would be the gentleman who helped me and gave me a national push, which would be Dusty. So the Dream and Jack Briscoe, those would be the two guys that I would have loved to have just one match, even if it was only a 5-minute match. Sure. I would have just, because I stepped in with all the other legends. So
Yeah.
Those are the two I didn't, get a chance to actually be in the ring with and work against.
Yeah. I'm not as much as you, but I do get opportunities to go and do autograph stuff and some of the wrestle cons and things like that. And of course, right. you always have these young guys that come up and ask you how to get into wrestling, and they want to be a professional wrestler. And in my mind, I'm saying, if you're in my mind, I don't say this to them because I would never want to hurt them, but right. In my mind, I'm saying if you want to make it to the top of the ladder, you got about as good of a chance of being abducted by a Lebanese terrorist on February the 30th, than doing that. But I try to give them some good advice. But my goodness, Ricky, I've done independent shows, and they used to look down on independents, called them, pretty bad names. But now you got AEW, you got, WWE, you've got the NWA still, working.
TNA too.
Yeah, there you go. And there's a lot of opportunity. And then you've got independent shows literally all over the nation. So
absolutely,
what advice would you give to a young person that wants to get into professional wrestling?
Well, the first question I usually ask them, are you married? And they'll go, no, sir. I said, do you have someone that you're in a relationship with? And they go, well, yeah. And I said, well, this is not for everybody. And I'm going to be honest with you because it's a strain not only on you physically and mentally, but it will be a strain on your family. So you want to make sure that if you're going to go into this, that you're all in, because a lot of guys start out gung-ho, they get discouraged, they get frustrated, they quit, and then they'll be the first ones in front of the TV on Monday night or Friday night or Wednesday night, whatever night they're watching, and they'll be the ones going, that should be me. I could do that better than him, and that. But you left, you quit. So if you're not determined to follow your dream and make a lot of sacrifices, like any sport, this is not for you. It looks great because, it's on TV and everything else. And, there's a reason why in the NFL, there's a limited amount of professionals, because at the, Pop Warner, everybody plays. Then you get into high school and then you start to get the standouts. And then those standouts go to college and you have to be a better standout. And then you have to be in that elite squad to get to the NFL. Same thing with the wrestling world. You can try as hard as you want, but if you don't have that one special niche or determination or factor, whether it's ability to work or the ability to talk on the mic or the ability to create, it's going to be a tough road. And I don't want you to be discouraged. I'm just trying to be honest with you. And I had the same obstacles, but I was determined. My dad says, you're hard-headed, but that's a good sign if you want to achieve something. He says, you should, pursue it. Me and mom are going to back you up. But my dad would look at me and, I know in the back of his mind, you should have finished the college education. You should have got a good job with a pension, different era, different mentality. And I understand that. But, he was my number one fan. He left me too soon, but he was my number one fan. He would always guide me right. So he was my rock.
Yeah, my dad was my number one fan too. Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Go ahead, Jeff.
Ricky, we're gonna be running out of time here in just a minute.
Okay.
Before we do, so let's say, we're having this conversation now, so it will get out there. But let's say, we meet at a wrestling convention, a WrestleCon or something like that, And so we're talking at the table. I mean, what is the one thing that you want fans of the sport, of yourself, what do you want them to know about you? What is the takeaway that you want them to remember about you, your career, your philosophy of life, whatever it would be?
Number one thing is I would thank them for remembering me. I had an opportunity to entertain them, and they remembered. I'm very humble in that aspect of it because they're the ones that made me. And I want them to know that they can come up to me no matter where it's at, no matter what I've done, what I haven't done, wherever I could be. You can see me in the public supermarket. Hey, man, I remember you. I was a kid and da-da-da. Thank you. That's what I tell them. Thank you. And they look at me like, thank you. Yeah, thank you for remembering, because that tells me that my efforts were well worth it. I was entertaining you. So that's my biggest thing, to have them remember me as somebody that was part of their childhood or their adulthood, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Well, that's what I remember. I mean, you were entertaining, and I mean, I remember that, and I mean, yes. So thank you for doing that. I mean, you're a great entertainer. It was so fun to watch you work. I mean, if you want to come up here and wrestle with Chris, I am more than willing to book that for you guys. You guys can get in the ring and you can go at it, and you can knock that hat off his head if you want.
Yeah, but I want to be inside of a steel cage and let the hat be at the top of the cage. And if he wants to get it back, he's got to climb in.
There you go, even better.
Hey man, we can't thank you enough, Ricky, for taking time to be on The Clash. Do you have a website, or people want to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, obviously, and Instagram. Just you'll see Ricky Santana, and you'll see my pretty face.
All right.
Okay.
And you can get a hold of me, and just reminisce if you want to. I'm not hard to find, and I'm easy to talk to.
I know that. Anything else?
I think we're about out of time. I thank you to our audience for watching us, and I hope you had as good a time as we did. And if you didn't have a good time, then it's your fault. We had fun. Chris, get us out of here and take us home.
Yeah. Well, I hope there's some things from Ricky's life that you've heard over these 30 minutes that we've been together that are going to help you in your journey. And whatever that journey is, remember this: don't tap out.